My name is AJ Devine. Today is August 2nd, 2002. I'm going to speak about September 11th. I had a lot of experiences on a lot of different emotional levels because I am an airline pilot. I'm a pilot for American Airlines. I fly 737-800s. I've been a airline pilot for 3 years. I've been a pilot for 12 years. I used to fly in the Navy. I used to fly jets off of aircraft carriers. Um, so I had a lot of different experiences on that day and the days to follow after that. I wasn't flying that day. I had that day off, and I was woken up by a friend, or actually my roommate, who had heard about something on the radio, and so I was able to see a lot of the coverage from the very beginning that morning, and I was just watching it on television. Um, I think just like it was for everyone else, it was a very surreal experience just watching it, not really being able to comprehend it, not being able to compute what I was seeing. It just didn't seem real. Um, it it really felt like that I was in a dream state. Um, Even as we actually, no kidding, were seeing the airplane going into the second tower. Um, we couldn't figure if that was just a replay of the first, or if um, we were just even imagining it. I mean, we had to, my roommate and I had to look at each other and make sure that we were actually awake. Then I got a call from my best friend, who I grew up with, and this was part of my experience that was kind of extraordinary that day. Starting at about 8 a.m., I started getting telephone calls from people that I've known my entire life. And throughout that day, I must have received about 60 phone calls, everybody checking to make sure that I'm all right and that I wasn't flying, because I do fly a route. I'm based out of Los Angeles, and I do fly a route that does include Los Angeles and Boston, Boston to Los Angeles. So even though it wasn't my type of airplane that I was flying, it just really it was quite a scare to a lot of the people I've known, and I heard from people that I haven't heard from in 10, 15 years. I actually heard from just about all of my ex-girlfriends in the past 10 years, some that ended on bad terms, but they were really, afraid, and found out a way to contact me and find out if I'm okay and that I wasn't in one of the airplanes. And so it really hit me towards the end of that day as I'm glued to the television, um, how much how much richness and fullness I actually have in my life, and how many people really do care for me and really do and thought of me, and was that it didn't even occur to me that people would have thought that. And so at that point, I did want to make sure that I contacted my mother. She hadn't called and she hadn't heard, and I had to leave her a message, and my father also, actually. And then the days to follow, I think, like most people, I could not I could not pry myself away from the television. It became a really unhealthy experience. But I wanted to get as much information as I could at first, more on a factual level. I just want to know what happened, how it could have happened, why it happened. Um, Specifically because it was it really was difficult for me, because I could visually image what could have possibly happened in that cockpit, because it's my job and it's something I do every day. I would put myself in each one of those cockpits, and replay the different scenarios in my mind over and over again, and it was a kind of a frightening experience, based on how we've been trained, um, not to not to originally we've always been trained not to escalate any kind of situation with a hijacker, because it's never been this is unprecedented where an aircraft was taken. It was always taken as a weapon. It was always taken as transportation. So we're always supposed to de-escalate the situation and try not to fight if not possible. So I'm sure the pilots did not have a chance. They before anything. Just through personal, personal or how we've been trained. Um, some of my friends were thinking, oh, maybe they didn't put up a good fight, or maybe they didn't even try to fight back. Well, they did not know what was happening. They did not know what was coming, and I'm sure that they were executed. And also, I'm sure I've seen a couple of those pilots. I didn't know any of them personally, but we all bump into each other at one point or another, going through one hub or the other, going through training, and I'm fairly sure that I bumped into the pilot the first officer in American Airlines aircraft that went into the Pentagon. And then that's another experience. Me being in the Navy, I had some friends who I went to the Naval Academy, and I had some classmates. I had several classmates and just fellow Navy personnel who were in the Pentagon at the time, and found out that through a couple of associations, a friend of a friend, was actually there in the Pentagon who was killed. And so just trying to pick up the facts all day long, and then for days after, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, and then at first I thought it was just a factual thing, and then I really started to realize how emotionally distraught I was becoming, and I was at about the third day of watching television for 24 hours straight. I hit a pretty low. I was in pretty deep despair, and I actually started crying uncontrollably because the personal side started coming through when I started seeing all the clips of the people who were looking for their family members and holding up notes and holding up pictures and just waiting in desperation for any news, and that's when I actually felt close to the people who were here, and I have never been more sad in my life, and so I realized at that point that I had to force myself to take an entire day away from the television and not to be bombarded by the information, the images, and I had to put myself in the space of people, try to be around friends, and try not to think about it. And that did help me a lot, because I really was not in the space to do my job or even function that third day. After that, I started to feel better again. And again, I limited myself to how much information I could take in each day. And then by the seventh day, a week later, I was still very anxious to go back and do my job, but I felt that is exactly what I need to do. So I called the scheduling for American Airlines and asked if I could be assigned a 3-day trip. And I guarantee the very first day that I went back to step on that airplane, I felt like I was in an entire different world, and I could not feel comfortable. As a sense of anxiety, I didn't know who to trust. I normally really enjoy greeting passengers and interacting with passengers and kids, and that's one of the most enjoyable parts of my job, and I did not feel comfortable doing that. I didn't know who I should talk to, who I could look at in the eye. So I was ever so critical on the procedures and the steps and the technique of my job, of actually flying the aircraft. I mean, we are all very very highly trained, and we're always in the position of focused concentration, but even more so, I needed to focus on what I was doing, so I didn't let my mind wander. And it actually came back to me very quickly. After a day of flying, I would fly from Los Angeles to Chicago and then back to San Francisco, and then the next day, all of a sudden I really felt good being back in the seat. Another thing that was comforting was all of the policies and procedures and the security issues that were we did it to the extreme. We did it to excess, and a lot of things were redundant, and a lot of things were probably not necessary, but it was necessary to take those extreme actions at that point because we didn't know what we were dealing with. So it made the job a little harder, but it was definitely comforting to know that we are doing something to protect ourselves. So now just as much as I ever did, I love flying. Flying is my passion. Flying is my life. I really enjoy what I do. I enjoyed flying, and not only just the flying, but I love people. And so this is the perfect job for me, and I never have a single doubt anymore about what I do. I would never change. I would not change my life for anything. And I'm back, and I'm definitely in a place where I know what the fears are of people who could be flying, and sometimes there are a lot of times where people didn't enjoy flying to begin with. So in any way, shape, or form, I always go out of my way to help other people be comfortable. I always enjoy being able to talk to anybody if they're interested in knowing anything about anything about the flying, anything about what security measures that we take. But just in reminiscence of those the September 11th and the days following, I have never had such emotional experiences in my life. I am an expressive type person, and I don't mind expressing my feelings, but I had never had any kind of uncontrollable sobbing on that third day afterwards. And all of those things were included. I'm also in the military. I'm in the Navy Reserves. So another issue was, am I going to be called up to fight or not? I was. It's so hard to prepare your mind to either go back to work and fly in this kind of environment, or am I going to have to prepare my life to be overseas for an indefinite amount of time? And then at the same time thinking about the people and how they're getting along here in New York, and just thinking about how blessed I am of all the people who cared about me and who were worried about me and thought of me when they saw what had happened. I just cannot explain how emotional and how devastating and how actually enriching it was. I'm so sorry that it had to happen in such a way that I had to realize how much people really love me, but that is what occurred for me. I did not end up getting called overseas, but I was ready to go at any moment. I do enjoy my life, and I have a lot of material things, but none of that mattered. I was ready to give it all up and do what I had to do. I'm not a vengeful person, but that's not the reason why I would want to fight. I want to protect I want to help protect our country, and make sure that something like this never happens again. I'm not sure. I can never put myself in the place of the people who did this. So I can't even comprehend how the human spirit can even allow themselves to do something like this. But I hope God blesses their souls and the people who may still intend to harm others in this way.